Right, Remembrance Day is very important to me because I was born before the war and lived right through the war in a city called Hull. I lost family in the war, especially in the Navy. I lost my grandfather in the First World War, which he was in the East Yorkshire Regiment. So I have a great passion for remembering my family, but also remembering other families which passed on because of the war, because of the bombing. Because my city in Hull was the second worst hit by the Germans. But I used to watch them coming down the Humber, trying to get to the docks and to the refineries. But I have a great passion for remembering on this particular day of the people that gave their lives for us. And I think everybody should remember this. It's very important to all of us.
I've been born during the Second World War. The thing I remember from that was VE Day, and I got a good hiding for climbing onto the window where I lived, because the Polish regiment that was stationed in Conway actually set fire to the gauze. A big bonfire. First bonfire I'd seen like that, but I got a good hiding. Through life, before I joined the forces, yes, went to Armistice Sundays in various guises, with the Scouts and even with the church. While serving on HMS Lincoln out the Far East, we were guardship. And for Armistice Sunday, the guardship provides the guard on behalf of the Royal Navy. And at Singapore, that takes place at Kranji, a war cemetery, and now is known as a state cemetery for Singapore. While in the guard, it was rather interesting. We were a little bit subdued. Yes, quietly subdued. And when we came off, everybody in the guard knows that we were very good at being able to talk without moving your mouth. And the peculiar thing was I was able to see certain Chinese men crying. And I quietly said, "Good grief, you noticed those Chinese men crying?" I've never been on a bus afterwards where everybody was very quiet, and that came to mean to me what had taken place on that island during the Second World War. Fortuitously, a few years ago, I actually visited the war cemetery again on the way to Australia, and took a wreath with me to lay on at the cemetery. The wife didn't come with me, but I filmed it, and I come across 3 gravestones. An Australian known only to man and his God, a Muslim, a lieutenant in the intelligence service who was a Jew, and the other one was a Hindu. 3 different gravestones, 4 men known to their maker. I broke down. Why did I break down? Because I realised the futility of war and the horrors they had met, and those that have meeting them even today. Means a lot to me. As somebody said some years ago to me, politicians make war, men fight them, politicians make peace. I'll be there every day, every year, as long as I'm alive, and that's what it means to me.
What does Remembrance Day mean to me? I didn't serve, but my father served for 6 years in the Royal Artillery during the Second World War. I had a cousin who was a pilot, survived, and 6 great uncles who served in various regiments. And one particular uncle was sunk 3 times on frigates, and he was seen as a bit of a bad luck charm. Anyway, he survived. My grandfather served with the Royal Dublin Fusiliers in the First World War, and he had a long, wounded 3 times and sent back to the front. And on the 3rd occasion, he developed pneumonia and pleurisy and was sent home, and he survived. So, a remarkably lucky family when you look at it. But I just feel that, although I didn't do that, I've been in the British Legion for about 30 years. And Royal Marines Association, North Wales, since it started, because our youngest son was a Royal Marine, 40 Commando, Charlie Company, 9 Troop in the Falklands. And although he doesn't tell me stories, he tells stories to his friends, and sometimes they get back to me, which is quite hair-raising. But he'd come through it very, very well, got himself a good job and a family, and yeah, he's doing okay. But there are so many other cases they're not doing so good, so that's why I help as a fundraiser with the Royal Marines Association to collect money for people who are badly injured, life-threatening injuries, and of course the widows and children. That's what it means to me. It's got to be remembered. We can't forget. We mustn't forget. People gave their lives for us. Thank you.
Why is Remembrance Sunday important to me? Well, I was born after the war, but as I grew up, I was in the Cubs and the Scouts, and we used to go along to Remembrance Sunday every year. And I didn't really understand the significance of it until my father sat me down and explained what Remembrance Sunday was. And at that time, I was probably only about 8 years old. My father explained that his father had died in the First World War. And he'd served in France, and he died in 1918 on the 1st of November, and it was 11 days before the end of the war. And of course, all of my aunts and my uncles used that time of remembrance to spend their time concentrating on their father. I joined the forces in the 60s, 1966, and I served until 1980. And during that time, obviously, I was on many a Remembrance Sunday parade, but the Remembrance Sunday became more poignant as it drove closer to home, because I started to lose friends in Northern Ireland, and other colleagues that I'd served with had died. I didn't necessarily know them well, but it gave me a time to reflect when I'd lost these colleagues and friends. And I think it's so important that we remember those that gave their life for others. In other words, they gave their today for our tomorrow. And those words always resonate with me. And so Remembrance Sunday is a really important time for me to remember and reflect on people that have given their lives and friends that lost their lives.